Good afternoon, everyone, on this beautiful, snowy, it's really snowing out there, afternoon in Ottawa. Welcome to PAL Ottawa's Online Arts Festival Spotlight 2021. My name is David Globerman, and I am with PAL Ottawa, and I'll be your host today. Before we get started, I'd like to inform you that this presentation is being recorded for later posting on our PAL YouTube channel. Given the bandwidth and everything, I would ask that you mute your microphone and unshare your video button so that you're not visible on the screen. Later in the presentation, Charlene may call on you to unmute your video or even your microphone to show your work or ask any questions or things like that. If you do have any questions, there will be I'm sure you will, there will be a question and answer period at the end of the presentation. But if there's something really critical that you really want an answer to during the course of the presentation, I would ask that you send the question through the chat function, which is at the bottom of your screen, and Charlene will pick it up or I'll pick it up and we'll try to answer your question. But that's really more for questions that need to be answered right away. I would also ask that you mute your cell phones so that just in case you're not muted in your mic and your cell phone goes off. PAL Ottawa would like to acknowledge the generous support of the New Horizons program, which is part of the Department of Employment and Social Development Canada, that makes this arts festival possible. And for those of you that are new to PAL Ottawa, what PAL does is it provides arts workers that are either active or retired and are age 55 and over with affordable housing, which is something that's really hard to find these days in a lot of the major cities. And it also provides health and social supports in a caring and creative community. So this keeps us busy because there are a lot of arts workers out there, certainly greater than our membership. And we encourage, as many arts workers to, or anybody for that matter, to join PAL Ottawa because there's a lot of benefits to doing so. I would encourage all of you to check out our website at www.palottawa.org for more information. It'll give you a lot of information on upcoming events. We have a newsletter which is really informative and put together by our communications person, Matthew Behrens. And there's a lot of really cool information on that covers arts and entertainment, cutting across all the different art sectors. The arts festival that PAL Ottawa is currently producing it's a really great opportunity to support those arts workers, presenting many who are living at or below the poverty line, which is about, I think it's just below $18,000. And I don't know if people know this, but most arts workers are not making more than that. In fact, a lot of them are making less. And in this pandemic, times have become even tougher. So we all have to, try as much as possible to support our arts workers. If you think about a society without music, without dance, without theater, it's a pretty boring and sterilized environment when we don't want that to happen. So hopefully initiatives such as this arts festival will encourage people of all ages to join soon. Join PAL. You don't have to be 55 and over. You can be any age. And we hope that you do join PAL. We hope that you donate as much as you can. It can be $5 or $10, doesn't matter. Whatever you can will certainly help us in our endeavors so that we can carry out our important mission. So now I'd like to give just a brief introduction to our feature presenter this afternoon. Our feature presenter this afternoon is Ms. Charlene Lau Ahir. I hope I pronounced that right, Charlene. The last name?
Lao Air, but that's okay.
Oh, Lao Air. I'm sorry. Charlene Lao Air is Charlene is an experienced teacher, technical communicator, arts advocate, and visual artist specializing in perceptual painting and drawing. She's taught classes and led lectures, demonstrations, and workshops in painting and drawing at a number of venues, including the National Gallery of Canada, the Orange Gallery, Canterbury High School, where my niece and nephew went, I should mention, Ontario Teachers Federation, Glebe Neighborhood Activities Group, Louis Blanche, Gatineau, University of Ottawa Faculty of Fine Arts, University of Ottawa Faculty of Medicine, and private mentoring and workshops at Studio 6 and Live Lab. So without any further delay, let's let our 43 participants give a loud, warm welcome to loud applause and warm welcome to Charlene.
Thank you. I know I can only hear a few of you, but I feel the collective energy of all of you people here online, and this is the largest group I've done an online presentation to. So thank you for being part of it. And I see that from the chat that there are people from the Netherlands, from Scotland, from the States. So welcome to you all, and thank you for taking part. So I'm really excited about today, this particular presentation. Well, not only because I'm doing with in collaboration with a new organization whose mission I admire, but also because it's given me a chance to kind of reflect a little bit on what I've learned from my own drawing practice, because this is my second, you could say my second career life. So it's been quite a journey, and I think everyone brings different experiences to their art and their drawing. And if you're taking part and don't have much experience in drawing, that's okay too, because this is a big, I like to consider it like a big experiment, if you like to think of it that way, or even like a sandbox for playing in. So I'm just going to start off with a little slide presentation, and here we go. I'm just let's see, I just need to share my screen. Okay, so you should be able to see that. And I am going to turn the spotlight off on my other machine for the moment. There we go. So you should just see the slide presentation. So I've called it Drawn Together, Exercises in Mindfulness, because obviously there's lots of you out there, and we're going to be drawing together. And I really had a kind of like an aha moment this morning, thinking about the idea that the fact that there's a lot of you out there, even though I cannot see you in person and I can't physically touch you, there's something to the fact of being together even online. And I'm hoping that we can share some experiences today. So I wanted to start by talking about the big question of why we draw, because drawing has been part of the human experience for tens of thousands of years. And you'll see that later on I have some examples of some pieces of artwork that are, 70,000 years old, maybe even more. We don't really know. So since the beginning of time for humans, it's been a way of expressing what it means to be human. And it was a primal form of communication. And you can see that these handprints from a cave in Indonesia date back to almost 38,000 years BC. Here's another couple of pieces of artwork. One is from the Blombos Cave in Africa, dating to 70,000, and it's quite a beautiful drawing. There's a sensitivity of line, even perhaps an understanding of perspective in some of these drawings that I've seen, where they've actually put like several horses, and they seem to be smaller as they go into the distance. So they did have sort of an understanding of how to communicate that sense of space. So I also liked these little kind of, I guess you call them petroglyphs, like this one from a cave in Indonesia that dates back to 44,000 BC. And I find it just amazing how compelling it is that these, you know, I guess they were Neanderthal men or women, had this need to scratch, to make marks into rock, and it seems to be just maybe an essential part of human behavior to want to make things. So I find that compelling. And the first time I saw some of these, a chill just went down my spine thinking about that connection that we have with these people from so far back. So as I was saying, since the beginning of time, drawing has been used as a tool, and a tool that is used for many different types of things, and maybe some of those things all together at the same time. So one means of using drawing was as a storytelling tool. Another is a kind of mode of inquiry, and thirdly, maybe even as an exploration of self. And this is a beautiful drawing from Indonesia, and I believe it's tens of thousands of years old as well. But how beautiful is that they were able to kind of conceptualize the patterns and make them into this beautiful drawing. So here we have the fact that humans being needing to tell stories. They've created these myths, these tales, these legends, and history shows that drawing has really played a crucial part in satisfying that basic need, the same as the word. We have been also telling stories via words, but drawing is a kind of a different beast. Here we have a Chinese picture scroll from 1656 that documents the 4-year epic journey that a young man had searching for his parents when they were separated during the war. And this scroll, I forget how long it is, but I think it's something like 40 feet long. But he needed to capture that story because it was part of his maybe working out some of the emotions that he had felt for those 4 years. So drawing, as I was saying, is a distinct form of storytelling. There is actually a big difference, according to Andrew Graham Dixon, between what happens when you tell a story and what happens when you draw it. And these drawings are by French artist Henri Matisse, and he put his finger on it when he said, whereas the writer has to use a shared language of speech, every artist uses his and her own self-invented visual language, so that every element of every story that he draws is shot through with his or her own personality and idiosyncrasies. And you can actually see in this series of drawings that Matisse, he was experimenting with forms and patterns to arrive at something that was somewhat far removed from perhaps what he was actually seeing, but quite an interesting progression. And then there's drawing as a mode of inquiry. We have here some very beautiful drawings by Leonardo da Vinci, who was born in 1452, and he made an incredible number of drawings based on some of his experiments with anatomy, and also with, he actually did many experiments dissecting animals. And it was him that discovered the nature of the circulatory system almost 400 years before the next scientist, I forget his name now, but who actually published some writings about that. And I think a major part of his discovery was actually documenting and drawing things out. And the same is true of Santiago Ramon Cajal, who was considered the father of modern neuroscience. And he drew some very, very beautiful diagrams and schematics. And I think he was working out those connections by drawing. So here you see a picture of some of the synaptic connections in the brain. And I don't know if he would have been able to do that without actually doing the drawing. And then there's drawing as an exploration of self. Carl Jung, the psychoanalyst, he wrote in this very intimate journal called the Red Book. Over a period of his life, he used it as a private journal, a private visual journaling, and it has some incredibly beautiful drawings that he didn't share with anyone. And in fact, the book was only published by his grandson in 2009. But some of the pictures are quite intense, maybe even grotesque, but he was confronting his unconscious self through these drawings. So they are quite beautiful. So drawing, you can think of drawing as a thought that brushes a surface and leaves a thread or a trace. Or in the case of some of these petroglyphs, obviously they had to incise the rock with a tool, but you can look at it as a drawing as well. So basically I think of it as being kind of like an encounter between our thoughts and the medium that we work with. So these types of paintings and engravings over a period of millennia played an important part in the development of human cognition. So it's quite an interesting thing that we still now do not know exactly why these people made these drawings, but I think you can safely say that's an essential part of the human need to make things that that produced these works of art. So I wanted to present to you a couple of pictures because I think a lot about drawing and how we perceive things. And I have two drawings here done by children. And you could think of the drawing on the left, which is quite a lovely drawing of a horse, is something that comes out of a symbolic or conceptual knowledge of what a horse should look like. Because it has a saddle, it has a mane, it has a tail, even has a ribbon on the tail. And then there's a picture on the right, also done by a child, that is appears to be done from observation and very close observation, because you feel the you just feel the line in there, almost as if it was generated by seeing and paying attention very closely. So it's yielded quite a beautiful drawing. I find it interesting to think that these two drawings were made by a child of the same age. So they were both made by, I believe, 5-year-olds. So an interesting kind of different approach to seeing. I think the child on the right had autism, so that might explain his developed sense of sensory ability to see. And then up on the right-hand corner, you'll see a picture of a horse from the Lascaux caves that kind of combines both of those things together. So it combines observation as well as kind of a conceptual knowledge. And sometimes I feel that some of that yields some of the most beautiful drawings that we have in the world when you combine those two things together. So I wanted to talk a little bit about drawing from life because my own experience, in my own experience and training, I did a lot of drawing from life. You could say I've probably drawn thousands of models and maybe produced thousands more of drawings. But I do find that when you draw from life, you are connected to everything about that experience in that moment. And I believe that translating a visual experience from life, it recalls all the senses and rallies both intellectual and intuitive responses. And it's also a fluid and changing experience. You could even see it as an embodied form of memory. You see not only with your eyes, but with your hands and with your whole body. This is a picture of a postcard from a place that's dear to my heart because I studied there for many years in Paris, called the Académie de la Grande Chaumière. And at that academy, people like Gauguin used to draw from the model, Modigliani, Picasso, Alphonse Mucha, many artists would paint and draw there because the training was drawing from a model. Okay, so we can also look at drawing as a contemplative inquiry. I put a photograph of myself actually painting plein air in Italy, and I do believe that when you approach drawing in that way, it opens the door to be receptive to the almost the spiritual aspects of creation and to the beauty and the life force in the world around us. And drawing from nature is one pathway. Now this is not a photograph of me doing yoga on the edge of a cliff, but you can look at drawing as a kind of play as well. So playing on the edge is a concept that was developed by Joel Kramer in his yoga training. So it's the point at which you kind of feel that stretch in yoga. And it's a kind of game that challenges one's own conditioning and expands one's possibilities as well. And it's at the point where it's before pain and before fear, but stretching yourself. So you're actually, just moving a little bit beyond your capability, but not too far that you feel like you just don't know what you're doing. You can also look at drawing as a game of discovery. This is a drawing by French artist André Masson, and he began to do a lot of what we call automatic drawings with no preconceived subject or composition in mind. And he did this with a group of artists called the Surrealists. So he was like a medium channeling a spirit. He would let his pen travel rapidly across the paper without conscious control. And he soon found hints of images, fragmented bodies and objects emerging from the abstract, almost lace-like web of pen marks. So we're going to be doing a few automatic drawings a little bit later on. I'm just going to show you as an example. If you would like to, during the slide presentation, you could do a little bit of scribbling and in preparation for some of the other things that we're going to be doing. And just as an example, some of you don't have watercolor, but I actually used coffee for these. I don't know if you can see these. I just made some random marks on a piece of paper just to make some scribbles, and we're going to maybe use those later on to do some automatic and drawing completion exercises. But you don't need to do that with coffee or watercolor. You can also try doing it with a pencil. And just as an example, I'll just do it right here for you so you can see it. It's just making some random marks. So it doesn't have to be anything in particular. You can just kind of let your hand travel over the paper and just make some kind of random-ish kind of marks. And you can, if you feel like it, you can practice doing some of that while we're kind of finishing off a few more minutes of the slide presentation. Okay. So here are a few more examples of André Masson's beautiful pen and ink drawings. He did these multi-layered drawings, and I find that, just as the quote says, you can sense a free hand in love with its own movement, but not with itself. So it's like his sense of ego was dissolved, and he was just free to make marks and allow these images to come out of his imagination. So I find that kind of an interesting process, and I just love, the way that he combined different kinds of marks in these drawings. So these particular drawings, as Netchval points out, is they evidence an artistic method that plays on the line between chaotic control and non-control. It's an association that opens up both notions, to mental connections that enlarge them. So it's an interesting thing. If you think about art history, Masson and his group of surrealists, they really inspired a number of different artistic groups. Dali went on to do some very symbolist paintings that incorporated surrealism. People like Chagall, actually Chagall was before him, but the abstract expressionists also, they took these concepts of just automatic and sensory drawings and applied them in their paintings as well. Oops, I'm going back. So I wanted to kind of clear up a few terms, because I realized that on the internet there's a lot of talk about mindfulness. It's a big catchword, and I think there's a lot of confusing terminologies around those words, and so I thought I would just put the simplest definitions that I could find that made a lot of sense, that come from the Buddhist tradition, and they define them this way. Flow is the state when you are completely immersed in a task and distracting thoughts cease. So you can be in a flow state doing anything, anything from cooking to skiing to drawing, even maybe vacuuming or house cleaning. Although, yeah, I think you could apply that word to even something like housework. And then mindfulness is the state of awareness of what is happening. So you're very aware that you're actually, of what you're thinking, you're aware of your sensory responses, you're aware of the way that your hand and your body are responding to things. And then meditation is actually the practice of stillness, and it helps you get some insight into mindfulness. So those are some clarifications I thought were worthwhile to make. So I've been doing a little bit of reading up on mindfulness because it's an idea that I have been thinking about for a long time. And John Kavitzin is a practitioner of mindfulness. I think he might have coined the term mindfulness back in the 90s when he worked with some medical school students. And what he was trying to do was developing some programs to deal with chronic pain. So he defines mindfulness as an awareness that arises through paying attention on purpose, in the present moment, non-judgmentally, and that's an important part. And then I sometimes add, in the service of self-understanding and wisdom. So mindfulness can help us to focus our attention on what we need to do. So there are 7 essential attitudes to mindfulness. One of them is beginner's mind, and that's really about cultivating a willingness to see things for the first time. That's an important one in drawing because it allows you to see things with fresh eyes. The other thing, another attitude is non-judging. So that's noticing the urge to categorize or label thoughts that arise in your mind as good or bad. And that again is very helpful in drawing because it allows you to take a step back and see things in a more holistic way. Acceptance is acknowledging that things are as they are instead of where they should be. And I think that's an important thing too, to accept that in drawing you can make mistakes. And then that's tied to the next concept of letting go, which is releasing the desire to cling to the thoughts or experience that you think are good or bad. And it's really about being simply an observer. And trust is about being kind of, maybe I use the word being confident, but I think it really, it's about allowing your intuition to come to the fore, even if you do make so-called mistakes. Patience is something that we all probably could benefit from, and that's just understanding that some things have to unfold in their own time, and the process can't be hurried. The other and last attitude is non-striving. So that is to just recognize that you need to be yourself, to just be without pushing to achieve anything or be anywhere else. So those are some of the important concepts there. I put these down because I think that they are related to flow, and flow is something that I think most artists would love to achieve more of the time because sometimes it's very elusive, but these are the kinds of triggers that are more likely to put us in a state of flow. So one of them is a more obvious one is intrinsic motivation. That's trying to do something or doing something that you actually love to do. And the next thing is having a clear goal. So that's kind of like having a rough idea of where you want to head, just so that you can make the first step, so that it doesn't have to be, that path doesn't have to be a clear straight path. It can be a winding path, but just to have some sort of goal at the end is kind of important for triggering flow. Immediate feedback helps, especially if you want to learn faster to do something. And the skill to challenge ratio also is important. You want it to be roughly on par so that your skill level is not so different from the challenge. Otherwise, you can get very anxious about it, and then that's less likely to trigger flow. High consequences is another one that, although I think maybe in these days, maybe we don't want to think about consequences too much in terms of mindfulness, but it is an idea that, for example, if you're in extreme sports, that's more likely to trigger flow if you're doing an extreme sport because of the consequences of being hurt. And then the last thing is a very important one, I think, deep embodiment. So when it comes to drawing, I feel that that deep embodiment requires a lot of attention, and it requires that your whole body is kind of working together to do something. So that's another thing that can trigger flow, is when you actually do things with your whole body. So I also wanted to talk about how we bring presence into our drawings, and I'm not particularly speaking about drawing people, I'm talking about just capturing a sense of um, each unique way of seeing the world and bringing it into our drawings. Just like the drawings of the horses in the Lascaux caves, where you really sense there's a great beauty in the drawings, and there's a real sense of presence in those drawings of the hand of the artist. So this involves focused, concentrated attention, but combined with open awareness. So there's a rhythm and balance between those two things. And when you approach drawing as a contemplative engagement, that is often what will bring presence into your drawings. So imbuing a drawing, I guess in summary, with presence, means letting go of control, letting go of thought, opening to risk, and daring to take it further, all the while opening from the inside, being vulnerable, engaged, aware, and present. I put in a picture of some skydivers in there because I was thinking that they probably have to be have a fair bit of attention because they're hurtling towards the earth. But there's something so beautiful and graceful about falling through the air with your companions and just being so present. But there's a balance between paying attention and just knowing how to be there with your body. I would maybe use an example of skiing. I think skiing is a good example of the kind of attitude that you might bring into this process. Because when you're skiing, especially downhill skiing, if you, at least I was told this when I was learning to ski in my early 40s, and I had no idea how to ski, and I hurt myself badly the first 2 or 3 days that I tried it because the ski hills were very icy. But someone told me, and it was the best advice ever, and I think I can apply that to a lot of different things, is that when you're skiing downhill, you have to look down the hill. If you look to the side of the hill, your body is going to go in that direction and not have the kind of rhythm that's required to control your weight, to control your body, so that you actually end up going down the hill and not off to the woods in the side. And the way he told me to do that was to kind of pay attention to what feels right. And that was the best advice I had for quickly. I quickly learned to get better at it by paying attention to what my body needed to do in order to go down the hill. So I think that's a good analogy for almost doing anything, but in particular for drawing. So I just wanted to summarize a few things about some of the lessons that I've learned in my own artistic journey, and I include these 3 things because they were very important factors for me. One of them was doing kind of like automatic type drawing, and the other was, which is actually a big thing, drawing from life and from observation. And then thirdly, learning from those that have gone before me. So looking to not just the masters, but observing how other people do things. This has been really eye-opening for me. And the mindset of openness also was entirely had a huge impact for me. I included some pictures here of a temple, the Temple of the Golden Pavilion in Kyoto in Japan, because it was my first experience of mindfulness and like truly actually being present in the moment. And it was at this particular garden called Roanji Garden, and I was sitting on the edge, and there were a lot of tourists there with kids running around, maybe even screaming a little bit. And I was thinking, why is this particular garden, why has it been a place of pilgrimage for over 1,000 years for not just Zen practitioners, but common people? And so I sat there kind of thinking, what's so special about this garden with its broken rocks and the crumbling walls? And and then all of a sudden it struck me as I was sitting there that the beauty of the shadows of the sun on the rocks, it was so beautiful that all of a sudden my mind opened up, and all the distractions of my thoughts, about the kids, about the annoying tourists, everything just disappeared and dissolved in the background. And I felt like my sense of ego disappeared also, my sense of judgment. And I became very conscious of the way that the sunlight was falling on the rocks, and the sense of movement of the wind. And I honestly, I think I felt like that was one of the times in my life I actually felt one with the world, and it was an interesting experience for me. So now I apply that when I try to look at things with fresh eyes. So it's really about paying attention to ideas that present themselves also, both in the present moment and in the bigger picture as well. And then lastly, noticing the connections that we all share, both in ideas and perspectives, has been both humbling and consoling and a source of growth. Okay, so I asked myself what's next, and I like this concept of the adjacent possible, because the adjacent possible is it's a term coined by I believe he was a evolutionary biologist, to describe how biology, how things evolve in biology. And it has to do with conditions being right for something to happen, and on the edge of things. So it also describes a lot about human innovation also, that a lot of ideas don't come into being by themselves. They don't spontaneously come into being. There's a kind of adjacent possible that provides the conditions for us to explore and to kind of to innovate as well. So it's about, I've heard the definition being described as a kind of shadow future, hovering on the edges of the present state of things. And it's like a map of all the ways in which the present can reinvent itself. So it captures both the limits and the creative potential of change and innovation. So in terms of drawing, you could look at it this way, that that there are some limits and boundaries that present themselves in when we start an artistic project, and it's those limits that allow us to kind of push up against them and to create something that's that's that just is right for that moment. So I think that's an interesting concept to follow. So that's the end of my slide presentation. I'm going to stop the share of that now. And I'm going to start with I would like to start with a little drawing exercise that really is a practice in mindfulness. And it's called drawing the breath. So I'm going to share my camera view and show you a little exercise that kind of can put your mind in a relaxed and quiet state. And it's a concept that's very central to mindfulness, is the idea of noticing your breath. So we want to be conscious of how we're breathing, and to make sure we take, deep breaths and just slow down and be aware of how that breath is it's coming in and it's coming out. So I'm going to just switch my camera for now. So for this exercise, I'm going to use just a pen. You can use a pen. Actually, you can use anything that you like. I happen to have a a Sharpie pen here, and I'm going to turn my camera on and share this. So I need to I need to spotlight this video. There we go. So hopefully everyone can see my my drawing board here. So I've got a little Sharpie pen. So I'm going to start somewhere in the middle of the page, somewhere like around here. And the idea is that we're going to draw our breath. So we're going to take the pen somewhere in the middle of the page, and we're going to pay attention to when we draw the breath in and when we draw it out. So I'm just going to start now. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. In,
Charlene, I think there's some people that can't see your drawing.
Okay, my drawing is spotlit.
You might have to switch to gallery view.
Okay, yes, my drawing is spotlit, so it should be there in the gallery view, but I'm going to actually I'm going to remove the spotlight on my webcam so that only my um, only my drawing easel is so it should be spotlit for people regardless of whether they're in gallery or active speaker view.
Yes, I think people can see it now.
Okay, it turns out that depends on your settings. If you're using an iPad, for example, you may not see uh, you might not see more than one spotlit videos. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we're just going to continue that. We can just do that quietly if you like. The idea is that you can notice that your breath is it may be kind of moving downwards depending on how deep a breath you are taking on your inhale and how deep your breath is on the outhale or exhale. So you may notice a change in how long or how the quality of your breath. You may notice the just the different length of time that you're breathing in and out. So let's just try that for maybe another minute or two and see how that works. So just try and notice things about how your hand is moving along the paper. Maybe even notice the sound of your paper, your pen on your paper, the sound that it makes. I'm noticing that if I'm speaking, it's requiring more energy so that the lines are shorter when I'm talking and longer when I'm paying attention to my breath only and the drawing itself. Okay, so that's an exercise that you could try if you like, just kind of like as an introduction to when you start doing a drawing, to just to get into the flow. The other thing that you can do are drawings. Actually, this one that I actually drew this little doodle on while I was in a board meeting last night, and it's actually, I found that it was actually a good exercise, not only just in just being mindful of the shapes of this pen, but also it actually was an exercise in really focusing my attention on making parallel lines. So it was an interesting thing to be mindful of making parallel lines. And at the same time, I realized that my brain was also taking a look at the whole picture and saying to myself, what would kind of what feels good as a composition also. So, having the pen spinning in one spot was kind of an interesting, for me, compositional kind of exploration. So the next exercise that we're going to do are a couple of exercises in automatic drawing, but this time we're going to be doing kind of like textures. So I'm going to do the first drawing based on the idea of making organic shapes. So the first one is, I'm going to take a pencil. I'm going to use graphite this time, and I'm going to just think about just organic shapes. So I'm going to take my graphite pencil, and I'm kind of just going to just allow it to go wherever it wants. So, whether if you want to make swirly marks, just to be aware of the way that the pencil moves on the paper, And the interesting thing about using a pencil is that depending on how you hold the pencil, it makes a variety of different kinds of lines. So you can make a dark line, you can make a thin line, you can kind of turn your pencil, you can make kind of interesting shapes. So you can also build on them. You don't actually have to make anything, although I think I made a flower. So just allowing your pencil to roam around the paper, I find that this is a very relaxing kind of exercise to do. And it actually, you can build on these kinds of exercises too. You can, one of the exercises that we're going to do later on is actually taking some drawings and actually doing a drawing completion kind of exercise on that. So I'm not sure why, but I feel like making these kinds of marks right now. You can also take your pencil if you want and, try to make, use the flat side of the pencil also, just to kind of make some marks there. The interesting thing is that this is kind of reminding me of some of the little doodles I used to make when I was a child. And that's kind of a nice feeling to kind of take myself back to that. Allow yourself to move all over. I'm not sure whether I made an underwater scene or not. Maybe I did. Okay. This is the kind of thing that's sort of fun to do. You can go as long or far as you like on something like this. The other thing we could do is another kind of drawing, but on a different kind of prompt. So in this next drawing, this little next automatic drawing that I'm going to do is going to be based on something less organic and more like kind of more mineral or more crystalline, and that's going to involve making marks more like patchy, kind of strong. Let's try building on that, like making marks that are more about lines rather than curves. So can also vary the line width. Can also make the interesting thing about this is that I originally intended to make something more crystalline or more kind of more inorganic, but in fact I think what I did was I made something that was organic but maybe reminds me more of a landscape near my family cottage that has a kind of a swampy area with a lot of trees that are kind of in the water, but they're surrounded by a lot of woods or kind of like reeds and fallen trees. And I think that's what this actually reminds me of, is more of that thing than actually kind of like organic, rocks or anything like that. So the interesting thing is you never know what's going to happen when you do something like this, which is why I think this is such a fun exercise to do. And I think maybe I should do more of this just to relax. I think it's a kind of a relaxing kind of activity to do. It's an interesting thing. So, so that again is another kind of exercise that you could try on your own if you like. The one thing that I notice when I'm doing drawings like this is that uh, you want to keep moving around the page. So you don't want to get kind of just stuck in one spot because that kind of encourages a different way of thinking. It's almost like you're thinking of the object and kind of wanting to um, make something appear as opposed to letting something appear. So in this kind of drawing, when we're trying to kind of understand what mindfulness is about, it's about kind of um, allowing yourself to be and to recognize that perhaps there is a structure in all of this, that there is some sort of balance between some of the marks that I'm making, and that you kind of want to move around the page to some degree. Um, and then as soon as you start feeling a little out of control, which is how I was feeling right here, you kind of step back for a moment um, and stop those thoughts, and then quiet your mind. Quiet your mind and think, oh, okay, take a deep breath and then move on. I find that's an interesting idea, is that our brains are very busy. They're very distracted. Um, there's so many thoughts running around in our heads about the things that we need to do, the things we need to accomplish. How do I go about doing that? But this particular exercise is about taking a step back and being conscious of your thoughts as you are making them. So it's an interesting exercise to do that sort of thing throughout the day. Maybe even doodling, uh, when you have a chance to sit down and be quiet and to kind of allow yourself to relax a little bit. So, okay, so we're coming up on 3 o'clock. So I thought it would be interesting to do the next exercise. Is going to be slightly different. We're going to, instead of working from imagination, we're going to do a blind contour. So if, for those of you that haven't done blind contour drawings before, these are drawings where you're actually doing a contour. So you're doing a contour, kind of like the outside edges of things, but it's without looking at the thing, or sorry, without looking at your paper. So the idea is um, to train your eye to be connected to your pencil and the paper. And to do that, we're not going to look at, we're going to try our hand to begin with. And we're going to do a blind contour of the hand, but we're going to try not to look at the hand. We're going to just keep our eye on the paper. So I'm going to just put my hand over to the side where I'm not, sorry, I think I got that reversed. What I meant was you want to look at your hand, but do not look at your paper. That's what I meant. Sorry about that. So I'm going to look at my hand and I'm going to pretend or imagine that there's a line attached from my eye to the edge of my hand. And I'm going to allow my eye to follow the edge of the hand, and then my pencil hand is going to track that. So as an example, I'm going to not look at my paper, but I'm going to look at my hand and I'm going to kind of follow it along. And I'm going to not look at my paper, but I'm not going to lift my pencil from the paper either. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just allow my hand to go wherever it wants. So it may or may not be, like, don't worry about getting things in the right place. Sometimes I might want to draw in a knuckle. So just be conscious of where your pencil is. And allow yourself to make those mistakes. I'm just going to keep drawing. I have no idea whether or not that's actually in the right place. So that's my hand. It's quite a, well, it doesn't look like my hand per se, but it is very much a sensory observation. So we want to keep trying to do something like that, just to train our eyes to feel that connection. So I'm going to do it again. And let's see, I'll kind of make my hand into a fist this time, and then I'm going to look at some of these other shapes, which are kind of interesting. And I'm not going to lift my pen from the paper. I'm just going to allow it to make the mark as it wants to. I'm not going to care whether it's in the right place or not. There. So that's another example of that. So for our next exercise, we're actually going to try. Actually, maybe I should give you a minute to finish doing that exercise, but I'll explain the next one. So for the next exercise, we're going to repeat the same thing, but this time we're going to actually look at our hand. We allow ourselves to look both at your hand as well as the paper, if you like. But the trick is not to lift your pencil from the paper. So we still want to kind of be aware of that experience, but allow ourselves to still look at our hand. So I'm going to start down here. See, that's the top of my pen. Okay, and that's the bottom. So I'll start somewhere near the bottom. The key thing here is, you know, if you make a mistake, it's okay. Just keep your pencil on the paper, but allow yourself to go back, for example. So this exercise is about kind of letting go of the expectation of wanting it to look a certain way, and to be aware of where the pencil is, but also to be aware of the whole picture. So to be aware of the relationship of the mark I'm making to the actual thing that I'm looking at. So actually what I'm doing at the same time is kind of like trying to see the whole of my hand at the same time as seeing the details of my hand. So that can be a tall order, but what it involves is kind of just remembering. It's remembering to kind of change my gaze. Like, how does that line feel in relationship to the other marks that I'm making? Now, what I realized is that because I'm working bigger than life size, my perception of my hand is kind of undergoing a translation in my head. So, and because I'm standing very close to it, so I see that the proportion is a little bit off, but that it's an interesting exercise to be aware of that. So we can do that sort of exercise, kind of repeat that kind of exercise, but this time I thought it would be interesting to do the blind contour idea, with some of our participants. So, so what I thought I would do would, I mean, I do have a few friends who are going to allow their videos to be shown and be drawn during the presentation. I guess the first person I see is I see my Uncle Joe. So because his video is on, would you agree to be drawn? Would you agree to have your video drawn? Do you want to put hi? So if you oh, I think I see your thumb up. Okay, great. All right, so I'm going to spotlight you, and then we'll draw you, and be aware that your video will be recorded for this. Okay, so we're going to do a spotlight here. Okay, so I think I spotlighted you. So for a blind contour, so the same thing is going to be true for this exercise. We want to keep our pencils on the paper, and we want to allow ourselves to make mistakes, and maybe even just allow our pencil to almost record those mistakes as well. So we're just going to make a drawing, not care too much about whether it looks like the person, and we're going to just allow our pen to go wherever it wants to go. So let's see. So I'm just going to start here. Actually, it doesn't matter where you start, but because I'm not worrying too much about the actual outcome, I'm just going to start at the very bottom. So here we go. Okay, so your video is actually moving. I don't know if you're going to stay there, but I'm going to draw you as you appear there. Again, not caring too much about the actual drawing, like getting an actual drawing to be accurate. The idea is just to experience lines. So it doesn't really matter if it looks or doesn't look like you. We're just going to experiment a bit with just making lines. Again, I'm trying not to lift my paper from my pencil from the paper. So there we go. So that's the kind of thing that we we want to try experimenting doing, and it's really about letting go of judgment. So not caring too much about, you know, what, especially with figures and portraits, you want to just allow yourself to make those marks without caring, not caring too much about the actual drawing itself. Okay, so let's see, there's just, again, not lifting my pencil from the paper. Allowing myself to make those shapes. you can't see that. These kinds of drawings are quite fun, actually, because when you release yourself from the need to make something look like a particular object, it just releases you from judgment. And that's actually a very important concept or it's an important gift to give to yourself. Because it allows you to also just it allows you to actually open up to the idea of experimentation as well. And in fact, will help you even if you are trying to get a resemblance of a portrait, for example. I've done a lot of work on portraits and actually even doing portraits live. And the only thing that allows me to keep going is knowing that I'm not trying to go for a resemblance. I'm trying to look at shapes and flowing lines and things and how they fit together. Okay, so thank you very much, Joe. I'm going to remove the spotlight from here and we're going to look at another participant. Thank you. Okay. So let's see what we have in our gallery here. Can we ask, is Kenda, would you like to start your video? Oh, great. Hi, guys. So, so we could start a little drawing of either, you've got 3 of you, so we could try all 3 of you if you want. So I'm going to spotlight you. Great. Thank you very much. And let's try and stay still. So let's actually try, why don't we just try drawing all of you? Because that would be fun. So remember that, again, we're just trying to do contour drawings and allow ourselves again to make mistakes, to just follow the line wherever it wants you to go. So it, wherever the lines will take you is where we're going to go today. So for that, I'm going to start off to the side and just add some little marks in here. It can be fun. Actually, this kind of exercise is actually a lot of fun. I remember doing a lot of drawings with my daughter, a lot of contour drawings with my daughter, and they were so fun to do that, especially when you don't really care too much about the actual outcome. It's just about kind of allowing yourself to make those marks. And if you kind of allow yourself to kind of make mistakes, but leave them as evidence on the paper, it's actually another way of confronting, actually, I don't know if I use it as the word confronting. What I like to think of when I think of a drawing is to think of it as being a container. So a drawing is like a container for your thoughts. And whatever I'm thinking of is what's going to make it onto the paper. So it could be a giggle. Maybe I want to draw a giggle. So that part can be fun. Drawing giggles. I'm going to see if I can draw a giggle right now.
A giggle.
So, drawing giggles is fun. again, I'm trying not to lift my pencil from the paper, just letting it go wherever it wants to go. Now it wants to go over here, so I'm gonna draw over here. And here goes the giggle. Oops. That's the fun part, is allowing yourself to make the funny marks. Oops. I think you're gonna have a good giggle over that one. Okay. Now we're going to go over here. I hope Roman's head's not going to go off the page, but let's see. I just love drawing these kinds of drawings. I love the idea of a drawing being a container for our thoughts, because our thoughts can be so distracted and kind of full of kind of chaos. And if we think of a drawing as being a container, it's kind of like as if your thoughts are like if you think of your thoughts as being like water that fills a container. You have to make the container a certain shape. You want the container not to have lots of holes in it, or else all your thoughts will run out in all directions. And we don't want that. Oops. I think you might be having you're going to have a lot of giggles over these ones, I think. Okay. All righty. All right, so that's our drawing of you guys, all three of you. I think that was a lot of fun. So feel free. Actually, maybe at the end of the presentation, we can we might be able to, depending on the video bandwidth, maybe show some of our pictures in the holding them up to our camera, and then we can kind of share kind of some of the things that we did today. So I'm going to undo the spotlight from there, and I have some other friends that I'm going to ask Patrick to start his video. Let's see if we can do that. And meanwhile, okay, so let's see. I'm going to go to the gallery view here. Okay, so Patrick's here, and I'm going to add his spotlight. Hi, Patrick. So, I love your setup. I think that's wonderful. Let's give this a try, and start here with another. Ready. It's a good thing I have a lot of pencils sharpened. Okay, so let's see here. So again, we're going to try doing another, you know, like what do you call it, another contour drawing. And we're going to try to kind of, let's just try to keep our pencil flowing on the paper. Let's do that. The other thing I love in drawing is a concept called the searching line. And that was a concept that was kind of developed by Alberto Giacometti. And he basically, his drawings would be kind of like an interesting, almost mess of lines as he was searching. And yet in his drawings, there's a strong sense of presence in his drawings that is quite a beautiful thing to behold. It's almost like a nest of drawings. Like a lot of his self-portraits are like nests of lines and shapes. But it can be quite interesting to kind of to be able to see that nest of, in that nest of lines that he would make, there's there's still a sense of presence, a strong sense of presence of the artist, regardless of how you know dense his lines were, like just literally like a nest full of lines. So this again, this is a fun sort of exercise. Sort of thing that you can actually do with anything in your house. As I was saying, I was doing some drawings of some pens, but you literally could draw anything in your house just as a kind of a way of seeing it freshly for the first time in a different way, and kind of just allowing yourself to kind of just allow yourself to get lost in the beauty of lines and shapes and how they kind of work together. So it's always a fun thing to do. The other thing that's really fun is kind of just seeing people in context as well. Because there's one of the things that we miss so much about meeting with people is, just, well, not just missing the people themselves, but kind of going over their houses and having dinner together and meeting in cafes. And so there's a context around those things, and those are memories too that, really they're important for us and important for our well-being to know that we are connected in different ways through time and through space as well. So thank you, Patrick. That was great. And I appreciate that. And maybe now we could try, let's see, I'm going to remove your spotlight and see if, let's see if Andrea is here. I'm going to ask Andrea to start her video. Hi, Andrea. Okay, so I'm going to add your spotlight, and so Andrea should now be spotlit for everybody. And okay, so I'll turn the page here. Okay, so again, same sort of thing. We just want to try to again keep our pencils from going too far. Keep our pencils on the paper without lifting them if possible. And the interesting thing about a view like this with Andrea is that there's nothing in the background. So now we get to focus on the shape, on the shapes and kind of the idea is then that we want to think of just the shapes. We don't want to think about not necessarily the person, but we want to think of this face as a combination of lines and shapes meeting together. And I think that's the fun part is when you can kind of just look at someone as a bunch of shapes and kind of allow yourself to work with just shapes. To actually work with the shapes in relationship to each other too. That's the other thing that's fun to remember, is that yes, these shapes do go together to make a person, but the idea is, at least in terms of mindfulness, is to just allow yourself to, again, allow yourself to make those mistakes. There are shapes that fit together. If you make a mistake, that's okay. We'll just backtrack or allow our pencils to just kind of go wherever they want, really. They may want to skate over the surface of the page. They may want to kind of make a strong dark mark sometimes. And just allow yourself to open up to the idea of whatever comes to you, whatever comes to mind. Whatever comes to mind is okay. All right, so that's kind of my idea of Andrea. So thank you very much, Andrea. I appreciate that. Let's see where we are. We're at around 3:30. So we just have half an hour. Oh, we don't have a lot of time left. So I'm going to try something. It's called Conversational Drawing. Now, I came up with this idea because I was, I have to change let's see, I have to go back to the gallery view. Okay, now I'm going to spotlight this now. Okay, so the idea of conversational drawing came about when I was doing a residency at Ottawa U, and there was a student group that was doing some work with refugee families. So I had to, well, I didn't have to, but I wanted to engage and talk with these refugee families that had no understanding of English whatsoever. So I don't even think we could exchange more than a hello. So it got me thinking about, how do I communicate with these people? So what I did was I had my drawing pad with me, and I basically kind of, as a lead-in, started doing some drawings of them, and that kind of opened up some kind of conversations about who we were. So I spent the next hour kind of drawing out as best as I could who I was and where I was born. So I would I drew a map of Canada with Ottawa on it, and I said I was born there, and I think he understood. And then he showed me where he was born by drawing out where he was from. And then he drew an arrow showing him and his family in stick figures going across the ocean. And I just thought it was an interesting way of communicating because we didn't have a shared language. And so I thought as an experiment, we would give that a try, just doing a simple thing, a few simple things. The first thing I want to do is ask you how you are all feeling, how you're doing, because I know that these are strange and perplexing times that we're living through. So the first question I want to ask you all is how do you feel? How do you do? And I think one of the more obvious ways of communicating that are via emoticons or emojis. But I'm also going to share a couple of files in the chat window that have a few doodles and building blocks. So I'm going to share those right now in the chat. And there's another one. Trying to drag them over. Okay. And the other thing I'm going to, I'm going to drag this one as well. So there's a couple of emojis, face and hands. And I just thought for interest's sake, I was going to share the 10 most, the 10 most used emojis of 2019 is in there as well. Okay, so I am also going to share a couple of links to two websites that I found interesting that you might want to use in this next exercise. It's one of them is called the Noun Project, and the other one is a Google Quick Draw. So those two links that you see in the chat window will take you to a couple of websites. One of them is the Noun Project, which has a whole series of icons that you can actually use to communicate or to draw from. And also the Quick Draw also has some examples. But the first thing I'm going to ask you is how you're doing. So I'm just going to, I guess the simplest way of communicating that, of course, I think we all know the emojis for the simple ones like that. There are many. I guess I'm hoping that I'm hoping that you're not feeling like this, but it would be funny if you were feeling like this. Apparently, this is the most used. Actually, it goes like this. The most used emoji is this one. I think I've forgotten how to draw it now. It's like a person with their eyes like that, and it's like tears coming out of their eyes, but and this is supposed to be crying while laughing, and it's like the most popular emoji ever, I think. And then there's this one for our excitement. It was kind of looked like that now. I forget now how it goes. I guess did I actually put them in the emojis list. I did. So if you actually click on the files that I put in the chat, you can see some of the emojis. So the crying while laughing actually doesn't have eyes like that. It's more like this. With tears coming out and then laughing like that. But I guess people often use symbols like, you know, like hands to show. So hopefully I'm hoping that everyone is feeling okay, which would be more like, kind of like that. So that's, I guess, the universal symbol for okay. And I'm hoping you're not feeling the not okay, which is more like the thumbs down. But so I'm hoping you're not feeling that way. But in any case, I thought that what we would try is maybe just even describing a little bit about what you did on the weekend. I thought that would be kind of a fun game to play just for the sake of kind of just communicating an idea. So I actually had to think about this for a while, but honestly, my life has been pretty much, I think, pretty mundane, just like many of you who are kind of at home a lot. And so basically, I've spent a lot of time in at my house. That's often a universal symbol for a house. That reminds me, that's how I used to draw houses when I was little. But last week, if we were to describe how we, or what we did in the past weekend or the past week, I was thinking about, well, gosh, how would I draw some of that? So I guess, you know, I can draw stick people doing things. So I left my house and I went into my car. Of course, I'm not going to draw my real car, but oh, that's a funny car. Anyway, and then I went to the supermarket where I went to buy some vegetables and fruits. I don't know if that's going to be not sure what those are. Those are vegetables. And then I think after I went shopping, I actually had my hair cut. So let's see. It was actually quite long, and then I had it cut off. And there's some scissors. So that was me getting my hair cut. The other thing that we did, maybe I remember, was we got some takeout. So let's see. Yeah, a couple of plates here with little containers for takeout. steam out of there. And what else did I do? I wanted to go skating, but I actually didn't go skating. But if I had gone skating, maybe I would have drawn it something like this. Let's see. So that was kind of, there were actually a lot of people out skating on the canal the other day. What else did I do? Well, I think that maybe I'll let you guys play around with that a little bit. There, like I said, there were I did share some things in the chat. So if you wanted to try that off on your own, you could. And but I'm going to leave. I just wanted to finish one last exercise that I thought was kind of fun. So this morning I had a coffee and I made these strange little marks with my, actually one of them I just used my finger to make coffee stain marks. And then the other one I actually ripped my tea bag and used it as a brush to make some random marks on there. So I'm just going to try, I'm going to look at them. I'm going to put them up here and I'm going to look at them and just kind of see if I can see what I can see in them. I don't know if there's anything. It's a funny thing. I saw a lot of shapes in them this morning, but now I've now not as much, I think. But let's see. Maybe you see something different in them as well. But I'm going to take my, let's see, should I use a pen? I have a pen here. I don't know if that would do, or sorry, if a pencil would be better. I'm going to give it a try, each one. So let's, so in one of them, let's see, what do I see here? I think sometimes you have to just kind of let your imagination roam, almost like you're roaming over a landscape. So the idea for here is to kind of let your own internal landscape come out, almost as if you were like stepping back from things and looking at things like as you would a scientist almost. So actually right here I see a wheel of a bicycle. Yeah, I see the wheel and now I see handlebars actually. I don't know how to draw a bicycle, but in fact, I'm not sure, but I think I'm seeing a motorcycle in here. And I really don't know how to draw a motorcycle at all, but I'm going to pretend that I do. And I'm going to draw, I'm afraid that might be off the, I'm going to put it down a bit. I'm going to draw me on the motorcycle. My hair flowing out in the back. It might not look like a motorcycle, maybe it just looks like a bike, I'm not sure. that's kind of fun to just allow that to come out. And what else do I see in this one here? I don't know, I see a creature. I don't know what it is exactly. It's like, I'm gonna try this pen, which is a brown pen. It looks like a baby bird. I'm not sure. So it looks like a baby bird that's I'm not sure where he is. I think he's in a forest with some trees that have fallen down. It would actually be fun to do this exercise with maybe with the same media. So if I was drawing in coffee, maybe. And by the way, Victor Hugo, the famous novelist who wrote the Hunchback of Notre Dame, he did very beautiful drawings in coffee. I've seen them at the Louvre in Paris, and his drawings are utterly gorgeous. So there was an active mind that that was able to just kind of see so much, whether it was in an imagined world of castles or in putting stories together that were some of the most endearing stories of all time. So that's a little duck. I think he's looking for his mom. And there's another, these drawings are a little bit simpler, the ones on this side. Kind of wanted to explore the idea of something simpler on this side. So I'm not sure what I see here. Or maybe down here. Oh, do you know what I see? I see one of those little Japanese creatures. You know, the really cute ones that they make emojis out of. And what's he doing? I'm not sure what he's doing. I think he's getting onto a spaceship. He's getting ready to go on a long trip somewhere. Anyway, I think I'm going to leave those drawings at that point right there, because I wanted to leave a little bit of time. I guess we have a bit of time for some Q&A. So I don't know whether, David, you want to kind of, I don't know if you've noticed anything that in the chat that people want to talk about, or in fact,
We haven't. I haven't really received anything specific, but I'll open it. Let's open it up to the audience for any questions you might have of Charlene. I mean, for me, this has been an incredible. I actually come from a fairly artistic family. Unfortunately, I don't have the drawing expertise. My background is more in music, but I'm really interested. I guess my question is, the drawing experience seems to be very mindful, that the mindfulness is incredibly important to doing it. In other words, it seems that if you're trying too hard to get it right, particularly the first time, you're really not going to succeed. Am I right in saying that?
I think that we can think of, I like to think about there's an Eastern way of thinking about approaching enlightenment. And it's the idea of going in cycles. Almost like if you can think of ultimate enlightenment as being a goal uh, where we're spiraling up towards it in ever decreasing spirals towards this enlightenment. It's kind of like it gives us the sense that we move in cycles. So we might be trying hard to learn a particular skill, and sometimes what it does is it brings us back full circle to a point, but it's not exactly the same point. It's a point closer to the ultimate goal, and yet we're moving closer to the goal, but we are just
Mhm.
experiencing a different levels. So there's so many things. I don't think it's a linear thing. I think it's really something where I mean, you're practicing. You have to do a lot of practicing to get where you want to be. But I think it's very important to think of yourself as um, kind of like a vessel, and a vessel that can take different shapes, and we want the shape of that to take, um, uh, you know, we might be like our thoughts might be like the water inside a vessel, and we need to kind of think about how we want to shape that vessel.
I see.
Um, the one thing I did want to mention about just in the same context as what you were saying was that learning a new language, whether it's drawing or not, is really best done in immersion. And so learning visual fluency is kind of no different. But I think that immersion in mindset allows you to be open to discoveries from all angles, and it becomes like a full body experience. However, there's a couple points where this drawing might be different than um, learning a new language. And the first one is that um, as far as drawing is concerned, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do it all of the time. It could mean simply paying full attention in that moment when you're doing the drawing. I think that part is more worthwhile than immersing yourself per se, for a long period of time. Just paying attention in that moment can teach you much more than being immersed in it for a long period of time. And the second thing I wanted to say that is that unlike when you learn a language, you have to kind of learn a foreign vocabulary. Drawing can unfold organically from within. So you're building an embodied experience that you already have inside you. So to anyone who thinks that they can't draw, just know that the most beautiful things can flow out of you, and they're waiting to pour out. They really are. And they're at the tip of your pencil. Because a pencil is so simple, um, I find that the possibilities are infinite. And if you begin with a beginner's mind, I think it's an actual advantage to be a beginner. Those possibilities are infinite, and we just have to latch on to that adjacent possible that's there. You know what? I wondered if people would, if there were some people who felt like sharing some of their drawings. Um, so while you're thinking about that, you can also you could either raise your hand in the Q&A, or maybe in the chat. Just just maybe send a quick message in the chat if you'd like to. Oh, great! So Shulamit, that's a great drawing. I love that. I love that sense of movement of the line. It's just wonderful. Yeah.
Very
See,
nice.
see Kenda's drawing. I see Andrea's drawing. Oh, these are all great. I think they're fantastic. Isn't that so neat? Oh, and I see, oh, that's fantastic. Is that Romans or, um, oh, it's Stella's drawing. Fantastic. Oh, and I see Patrick's drawing and Lynn's and, oh, so many fantastic drawings. Do you know, this is
Very-
the amazing thing about, ooh, and an apple too. Isn't it great to draw from observation? I think it's fantastic. Oh, you can see drawings of each other too. That's even fantastic. That's even better.
Is that a wolf I see? Looks like a wolf from Kenda. Yeah, that's a wolf.
Oh, I think that's a great,
Charlene, this is my breathing.
fantastic. Isn't that wonderful to be?
I have been having chest issues today, so I thought I've drawn my puffer.
Yes, indeed, and you get that sense of it. So it's almost like there's a sense of presence in a
Well,
simple.
yes, I'd rather not have that presence, but anyway, I'd rather it looked like this, that Charlene's breathing.
Well, you know what? I don't know. If I were to draw that again, it might actually be very different. Who knows? Oh, I see lots of very strong marks from Dolores too. That's great. Like a sense of pushing into the paper. You know, there's in a lot of these drawings, there's a sense of space, even with some very abstract marks. Do you know, it's oh, I see some more, some abstract and you know, it's almost like there's a room in our minds, and our minds are kind of allowing that all to kind of come out. I find it also interesting how there's a lot of we can make a lot of stories out of the things that pour out of our minds. But what I really like about this kind of exercise is that we kind of guide the direction of that story. So that's kind of a neat thing.
Charlene, I have a question.
Mhm.
Is maybe the answer is probably yes, but has drawing and art been used a lot in psychotherapy,
Yes, yes.
psychoanalysis for people that are, experienced any trauma or PTSD or just any horrific event in their lives?
Yes, absolutely. It's a very central art therapy tool is to do
Mhm.
these kinds of exercises, and yeah, there's many different kinds. I haven't actually looked into all the different types of drawing that their art therapists do, but
Mhm.
there's certainly it's certainly a way of unlocking
Yeah.
some of those stories. And I found I actually talked to a researcher um, who was working with one of the foremost what they called, he was a neuropsychiatrist.
Mhm.
So one of the foremost psychiatrists in the world actually lives in Ottawa, and he's written several books. And I met with one of his researchers, and it was really fun. For a couple of hours, we talked about a bunch of different ideas that he might want to consider doing research on, and it was really fun for him, I think, to get the perspective of an artist, because
Right.
he had a lot of different things that that different background can bring to that. And I conversely found it interesting to talk to him because
Yes.
I have a lot of ideas about neuroaesthetics that I find fascinating.
Right.
Um, it's like, I think one of the things that drove me to do that is, when I look at, I actually pulled out a few very random drawings that I've done from life, and they're just from the top of the pile, so there's nothing in there that I particularly value, but just doing quick studies like this that might even be like a few minutes, but just allow you to feel how the mark, how marks come out of you in relationship to one another. Like, I don't know, some just, like these are like ink or acrylic drawings. Some of them are pencil and graphite drawings.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun to experiment with making different kinds of marks and to be conscious and aware and mindful of the fact that, so this is actually a mindfulness practice, to actually be aware of how a mark goes down in relationship to another mark. And it can be such a fun thing to do, like just, and you can be surprised that the kinds of drawings that will pour out of you are going to be different depending on how you're feeling at that moment in time. Like that's the thing that I find fascinating, is that you can't say that, I can't say that I make a certain kind of drawing, because it's always going to be different depending on how I'm feeling at that moment. And
Right.
I mean, I've been to life drawing where I could only, I forgot my brushes, and so I had to paint with paper towels. So that was and another time I forgot my canvas or my paper, so I drew on my palette paper instead. You know, it's just you have to kind of go with whatever you know, whatever you have at that moment, whatever presents itself to you at that moment is like a gift, and that moment will never come back again. That moment will never present itself exactly in the same way ever again. It's
There's
just
a lot of work. I actually did some. I sat on a committee at Elizabeth Breer Hospital that was addressing what they call interprofessional collaboration amongst the health sciences, and basically what they're trying to do is, for the premise is to integrate art into the curriculum of medical students, nursing students, to sensitize them to increase their ability to communicate, to increase their level of empathy, um, you know, and which is really, really needed. And I think that the great thing about what you're doing is it really makes for a better society. It opens up people to expression, creativity, collaboration, and things like that. It's and even if you don't become a great artist, the very fact that you're involved in it, I think for anybody that you're just doing it has extreme fantastic benefits.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I did. I worked with the University of Ottawa for a year with the medical students,
Oh,
and
right.
uh, the reason was for exactly that. I wanted to bring a different perspective to the medical students there, and it had an aim of trying to increase empathy,
Yes.
introducing different perspectives. And I found an interesting thing was that they were very interested in life drawing, actually.
Right.
So I ended up doing a lot of that with them. And it makes sense because
Sure.
they're studying the body. So to actually observe a healthy body is actually
Right.
a very worthwhile thing to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was a great experience.
Well, we're running out of time. Does anybody have any other questions that they would like to pose to Charlene?
Maybe before everyone goes, I'm going to share. I'm going to share just my contact information in case people are interested in in well, either classes, collaborations, or conversations. So these are my coordinates, and yeah, feel free to contact me in future. Um, okay, Joanne just asked a question about the name of these. I'm trying to remember it. His name is Dr. George
Northcott?
Northcott.
Northcott.
It's either Northcott or Northcott.
Okay.
I think it's Northought, but he's German, so uh, his name is spelled not as George, but more like Georg. Jorg.
Oh, with a probably Georg with no
Right,
E. Yeah.
right, right. That's it. Yeah. So as I said, I appreciate everyone who was able to come to um, this presentation and participate. It was wonderful to see all of you, and I do hope that everyone will be, just understand that life is a gift, and I'm hoping that also maybe that you might see drawing as a gift that's given to you as well, just as in the practice of mindfulness, and for kind of learning more about ourselves too at the same time.
Thank you very much, Charlene, for a really phenomenal presentation. You really explained the mind-body connection so well, the elements of drawing, and I think that I can speak for everybody that I think we're all leaving this session with a greater understanding of the elements of drawing and how it's nothing to be feared. We can all engage in it, and we can get better, and it's a form of self-expression, and that how important mindfulness is, both in drawing as well as any other activity we're involved in. So thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. Um, to the audience, you'll be receiving an online survey that we'd like you to complete and return. The survey doesn't allow for comments. It's a tick-off format, but if you do have any comments about Charlene's presentation, please forward them to myself at I'm David Globerman again, and supportingcast@palottawa.org. That's supportingcast@palottawa.org. And your feedback is really important because it gives us a barometer to inform us of how we're doing and what other types of programming we can be involved in. As I mentioned earlier, this session and all the sessions of the Arts Festival are being posted on the PAL YouTube channel. And we'd encourage you and your friends and colleagues, family, to check out that channel and click like and share if you are so inclined, and subscribe to the channel. There'll be a lot of other videos that will be posted in addition to the Arts Festival, such as our presentations through Palo Ottawa Social Circle. So anyways, we hope to see you again this Saturday at 7 p.m. when Yaja Romaniak, another artist, will be doing her presentation. And if you haven't registered, there's still a lot of time to do so. The more the merrier. We're at about the halfway point of the festival. So, we encourage everybody to show up as much as you can. If you can't show up live, just go to the YouTube channel. So once again, thank you so much for showing up this afternoon. And I think I can speak for everybody. This was a fantastic presentation. And please stay engaged, draw, sing, do creative things, because unfortunately this pandemic is going to be around for a while. And even after the pandemic, it's something to go forward in life with. So for Palo Ottawa, I'm David Globerman. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful afternoon.